Educational GMAT. Your partner in your GMAT journey.
Please read it carefully. Psychologist. All right. Okay. Now, in this experiment, which part of the brain was used? Linguistic processing center was, it was revealed that there was a considerable activity in the linguistic processing centers of the brain while solving abstract arithmetic problems. What does the argument conclude, by the way? However, it is likely that this activity reflected passing thoughts that are not an indispensable part of arithmetical reasoning processes. This again looks kind of a convoluted conclusion. So what would we do? Simplify this, right? Try to simplify this conclusion. And what is that simplified conclusion? The simplified conclusion is that arithmetical reasoning processes do not necessarily require activity in linguistic processing centers of the brain. This is the conclusion that we have to support, right? That arithmetic reasoning does not necessarily require activity in linguistic processing centers of the brain. Okay. See, the clarity in scope is very important here. Let's actually draw a diagram, by the way. For these volunteers, when they were solving arithmetic problems, right? What is it? Arithmetic reasoning, arithmetic problems, yes. When they were solving arithmetic problems, what area in the brain showed activity? Linguistic processing, right? So it is very, very clearly given that for these particular volunteers, linguistic processing regions in the brain were required, right? The conclusion, however, that we have to support is that linguistic processing regions are not necessarily required for arithmetic problem to solve arithmetic problems. Okay, now tell me, does the argument convey at any point of time that solving arithmetic problems is the only function of linguistic processing regions? No, it does not, right? It could be perhaps solving arithmetic problems. It could be critical thinking. It could be dreaming, whatever. So let's be very clear that the argument does not mention at any point of time that the only function of linguistic processing regions is to solve arithmetic problems. All right. Okay, next thing. Does the argument at any point of time say that linguistic processing region is the only region of the brain that is used while solving arithmetic problems? Again, no. When solving arithmetic problems, linguistic processing region may be used. Other regions may also be used. The argument, however, is saying that linguistic processing region perhaps is something that is definitely used. And in fact, the argument says that's not necessarily the case, and we have to strengthen that. So let's be very clear about the scope and then look at the given options. Now, how about alpha? Let's go by option by option. What is alpha saying? What do you think? The volunteers who reported that they had used language in their minds when solving the arithmetic problems were the most efficient in solving them. If anything, it weakens the conclusion. See, what is the conclusion that we have to support? That very nice, that activity in linguistic processing centers is not required. While this is saying that if you do solve language, right, language is related to linguistic processing regions, then you are able to solve it most efficiently, right? So if anything, I'm saying that it is actually weakening this conclusion. Okay, let's look at Baker. The brain scans revealed activity. Now tell me, what about this? How about Baker? We already discussed it. Activity in several parts of the brain other than linguistic processing centers. What do you think about this? Absolutely. As we discussed, right, the argument does not mention that linguistic processing region uh, is the only region that is required for solving arithmetic problems, right? So brain scans reveal the activity in several parts of the brain other than. So linguistic processing plus others is what Baker is saying, which does not preclude the fact that linguistic processing regions are also required, right? Okay, let's look at Charlie. In experiments in which volunteers have been asked to perform mental tasks other than arithmetic while their brains were being scanned, activity is often, yeah. How about Charlie? We already discussed it again. Why do you think Charlie is not correct? Notice what Charlie is saying. What Charlie is saying is that when people were asked to do other mental tasks, for example, critical thinking, for example, then linguistic processing regions were required. This is what Charlie is saying. But then were linguistic processing regions required or not required when performing arithmetic problems? No idea at all. All right. How about David? How about David? Studies have found that some people who have suffered significant head injuries are still capable of solving arithmetic problems. What do you think? Does that qualify? Does that qualify to be the right answer? Does that qualify to be the right answer? No. All right. Why not? Can someone tell me why not? So, absolutely. Head injury may or may not result in a damage to linguistic processing region. So maybe if head injuries of these people does not damage linguistic processing region, then they are able to solve arithmetic problems. We don't know. With David, we have absolutely no idea. So by process of elimination, we reach Edward. Let's look at Edward. Clearly saying, with professional mathematicians as research subjects, found that some solve the problems without any significant activity in their linguistic processing brain centers. So this is essentially what the argument was saying, right? That, right, this is what the argument was saying, that arithmetical reasoning processes do not necessarily require activity. And this is kind of a proof for that. So what Edward is doing is providing a similar example, similar to the extent that we are talking about arithmetic problems. So that's the similarity. And professional mathematicians are able to solve it without any significant activity in their linguistic processing brain centers, which clearly means that linguistic processing centers are not necessarily required to solve arithmetic problems. Any doubt, guys?